everyone, and welcome to this edition of Cyber Straight Talk. I'm Linda Zecker, along with my co-host Catherine Mahalik, and we're here to talk about something that just recently happened at the University of Pennsylvania. So, Catherine, obviously you're from the state of Pennsylvania, and you know that area quite well. And what are your thoughts on this? This was pretty significant.
Right. And again, what we always talk about, what's the number one way cyber criminals get in? They fish. And not only were they able to fish into what started through, it looks like the Department of Education, graduate studies and their department, but the phishing then allowed them to get credentials that allowed horizontal movement across they just updated it yesterday. The CRM system, i.e., Salesforce, different file repositories, reporting application, and marketing. So they took that entry in through that edge, say they fished somebody, got in, and then started working horizontally. And this happened on Halloween. So the hackers sent a rather unattractive or kind of nasty, you
Yeah.
guys are, Penn is a place of not a nice place. You guys do all this stuff.
Keep it clean, Catherine. Don't repeat
I
what
know
they
I'm trying. I think it was
said.
dog poop kind of organization. And then the one thing I found really interesting was the threat that they posed in there. And they basically said, um, all your data is going to be leaked to the hackers, basically taunting Penn that, Penn breaks all the rules about FERPA and all the other um, rules around student data. And so that happened at Halloween. Oh, how appropriate, I guess. In the morning by 4 o'clock, the Penn had sent out an email to their alumni within that school, basically saying, "Oops, sorry, you got a nasty, not so nice email." And then they replied on November 5th. So there was a little bit of a delay there, 4 or 5 days, while probably they were figuring things out. They've posted an FAQ, but again, we cannot, you and I talk about this all the time to our clients. Phishing, number one, biggest, easiest way in, and the biggest moneymaker for hackers, and the biggest cost for companies, education institutions, all the rest of that. So, um, it's another reminder. Do not click. Something may seem harmless and interesting,
Right.
but it's not. And if you don't know the sender, and even sometimes when you do know the sender, you don't have to click on it, or call them if you're really curious about what they're sending you and say, "Did you send this to me? Is this something you intend for me to look? Send a separate email." So it's quite the mess.
Yeah,
And
as a former board member of James Madison University, I'm well aware of that. In those databases are all your fundraising material, all the donations that have been made by everybody, all the pledges of donations, along with all the student data information, alumni information of all sorts. So it's a big deal. And to your point about phishing, and we've talked about this before multiple times. But so many times it's you do training in your organization, you think, I've checked the box, I've got it all done. But what you don't realize, it's third parties, it's groups that come in from the outside that are on your networks, and universities of all places have huge open networks where there are so many people coming and going and logging into the network. And whether you're logging in as a guest on a particular guest non safe network or whatever the case may be, once they are in, there's lots of ways that bad actors can then get into the broader systems. And so it's training is one thing, but everybody has to be vigilant about just making sure that you think about what you do. And we talked about also, you think it's coming from somebody that you know, but sometimes it's the name that you know, but the whole address isn't showing. and that whole address is from a separate group, and they're using those. They fished into somebody, gotten the addresses, and now they're leveraging them again. And these are huge farms of people that are brought in to do nothing but fish, fish, fish all day. And
Yeah.
it doesn't take long before they get a live one, and in they go, and out goes all the information.
Well, they caught a fish.
Yeah, they
And
caught a big fish.
yeah, and the one thing is they have brought in outside professional help. Um, it's according to what's on the website, CrowdStrike. The one thing that they didn't address is how, and I will be curious to see if the Board of Governors for Penn steps up and says, okay, this is, I hope they address it strategically instead of just tactically, right? Tactics absolutely needs to happen immediately. They got to be on it, and it looks like they're doing that. But I think it's also would be good for them to communicate to the broader alumni as well as people who think about it. Went to the Penn has a huge university medical system.
Yeah.
All of those people are now probably wondering, did my medical records get hacked? So I hope that the Board of Governors and their leadership talks more broadly about the overarching strategy that they're now going to be taking and not just the tactics of going after and cleaning up the mess, if you will, from the hack.
And even though board members are inside the kind of inside the circle of safety, board members go home. And when they're home, they can get hacked at home. As soon as they go back, they log on, and that all goes into the main system. And people just don't think about that. I am glad they've brought in software to help them, but frankly, they probably had software in place already. And so it takes more than that. And so, in most universities, most corporations have multiple different layers of security that they've put in place, and there's a feeling of safety with that, but you can still be hacked, and it can still come from the simplest, most easy way to come in. So that's what we do at Cyber Knowledge Partners. We talk a lot with board members about just don't be complacent, don't assume that you have got everything locked down, because bad actors can always find a new way to get in.
Absolutely. Well, they caught a fish, and hopefully that fish
Yeah.
gets off the line soon.
We wish them all the best, and we hope that
Absolutely.
this does not happen to other universities, but that's always the current concern. When it happens one place, can it happen someplace else? And when, again, when bad people want to make things happen, they can definitely go about that pretty easily. So with that, we'll end this edition of Cyber Straight Talk. We're happy that you could all join us, and please stay tuned for our next edition. So thank you everyone for listening. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.